Taken 2 is a 2012 English-language French action thriller film directed by Olivier Megaton which stars Liam Neeson, Maggie Grace, Famke Janssen, Leland Orser, Jon Gries, D.B. Sweeney, Luke Grimes, and Rade Šerbedžija. It is the sequel to the 2008 film Taken and was released on October 3, 2012. Despite receiving negative reviews by critics, Taken 2 was a box office success, and earned more than its predecessor. It is the second film in the Taken film series. Plot: the funerals of the Albanian mobsters killed by Brian Mills in the prior film are held in Šerbedžija, Albania. Murad, the mob boss and father of Marko, whom Brian had killed by electrocution, vows to capture Brian, bring him to the graves, and avenge their loved ones. Murad's men track down the corrupt French intelligence officer from the first film, Jean-Claude Pitrel, and torture him to try to learn Brian's location. Afterwards, they end up bribing an official for the information. Brian's daughter Kim and her mother Lenore, who is currently having marital problems, surprise Brian by joining him in Istanbul, Turkey, where he has just finished a 3-day security job. The next day, Lenore and Brian go out for lunch while Kim hangs out by the pool. Brian realizes they are being followed. After a chase, the men capture Lenore, forcing Brian to surrender, but before he does, he calls Kim and warns her to get to safety and wait for further instructions. Kim goes on the run to get to her father's room. Upon removing her flip-flops, Kim ends up getting on the window ledge and entering the room through the window. Her would-be abductors shoot another hotel guest and 2 security guards, but fail to find her as she hides in the closet as instructed and they are forced to flee when the alarm is sounded. Brian wakes with his hands tied to a pole in a basement of an old house. Using a tiny phone that he had hidden in his sock, Brian calls Kim, instructing her to go to the American embassy and tell them what happened, but she begs for a chance to help him and Lenore. Under Brian's guidance, she opens his suitcase, containing weapons, and throws a grenade onto a deserted rooftop parking lot. By timing the sounds of the explosions, Brian is able to successfully triangulate his location. While he is tied up, the Albanian mobsters bring in a struggling Lenore. One takes a knife and makes a small cut to her throat before hanging her upside down by chains. They tell Brian he has to watch her bleed out and die before he dies. When the mobsters leave, Brian is able to undo his chains, take Lenore down, and call Kim to detonate 2 more grenades so he can determine his location. The grenade detonations enable Brian to guide Kim close enough to see steam he sends up a chimney to mark his precise location. Kim tosses the gun down the chimney. Brian uses it to kill the Albanians in the building, then saves Kim from her rooftop pursuer. Lenore, however, is taken away by her captors. They steal a taxi and follow the captors. Leaving Kim in the taxi, when Brian returns to retrieve Lenore, he spots the gang taking her to a van. He shoots at the van but fails to save her. He returns to the taxi and both Kim and Brian head to the embassy as Kim drives the taxi. A chase and shootout with the police and Murad's henchmen then takes place, ending when Kim and Brian cross a railroad track. The henchmen being killed after their vehicle is hit by a train. Leaving Kim at the U.S. Embassy, Brian retraces the route to Murad's safe house he memorized during his abduction. After killing the rest of the mobsters and rescuing Lenore, he confronts Murad, who confirms Brian's guess that his 2 remaining sons will seek revenge in turn if Brian kills him. Brian offers to let Murad live if he gives his word to end his vendetta. When Murad nods his head, Brian drops his gun and starts to walk away. Murad seizes the gun and tries to shoot Brian, only to discover that Brian has removed the cartridge from the pistol's chamber. His actions proved his untrustworthiness and he is impaled on a towel hook by Brian. Brian then picks up Lenore and leaves. 3 weeks later, the Mills family is at a diner back home on the Los Angeles coast and having milkshakes to celebrate Kim passing her driving test. They are joined, much to Brian's surprise, by Kim's boyfriend Jamie. Kim jokingly asks her father not to shoot this one. Cast: Liam Neeson as Brian Mills, Maggie Grace as Kim Mills, Famke Janssen as Lenore Lenny Mills, Rade Šerbedžija 3/4 Ija as Murad Krasniqi, Leland Orser as Sam, Jon Gries as Casey, D.B. Sweeney as Bernie, Luke Grimes as Jamie, Olivier Megaton as Jean-Claude Pitrel, Kevork Malikian as Inspector Dermers, Luenel as Kim's driving instructor, Alan Figlarts as Suko. Production, filming took place throughout early 2012. Neeson and Grace shot their scenes in January in Los Angeles. The Istanbul scenes were shot in November 2011. Some scenes were filmed in the new film studios of the Cita Copyright du Cinéma Copyright Mar founded by Luc Besson in St. Denis in France for 1 week. Release: Taken 2 was screened on September 7, 2012 at the 38th Deauville American Film Festival. It was theatrically released in more than 25 international markets, including North America, on October 5, 2012. Box office: For its opening day in the United States and Canada, the film topped the box office and earned $18.4 million, $1.5 million of which came from midnight showings. In its opening weekend, Taken 2 grossed $49.5 million in North America, debuting in the #1 spot, setting a new record for the highest ever October opening in North America of a film rated PG-13, and earned about $55 million in other markets. During its second weekend at the North American box office, the film dropped 55.8% from its first weekend and grossed $21.9 million while holding on to the #1 spot. The film grossed a total of $3,385,094 in the Philippines by its fifth week. Taken 2 grossed $139,854,287 in North America and $236,287,019 internationally, which brings the film's worldwide total to $376,141,306. Home media: Taken 2 was released on DVD and Blu-ray, on January 15, 2013. The Blu-ray version was released with both the theatrical and unrated extended edition. Reception: On Rotten Tomatoes the film currently has a score of 21% based on reviews from 156 critics and reports an audience rating average of 4.2 out of 10, with a reported consensus. Taken 2 is largely bereft of the kinetic thrills and surprise that made the original a hit. At Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score out of 100 to reviews from mainstream critics, the film received an average score of 45 based on 35 reviews, indicating mixed or average reviews. Roger Ebert, of the Chicago Sun-Times, gave the film 3 stars out of 4, writing, "Taken 2 is slick, professional action," and concluding, "The cast is uniformly capable and dead serious, and if you're buying what co-writer and producer Luc Besson is selling, he's not shortchanging you." Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times gave the film a positive review, writing, "At a beefy 6'4", Liam Neeson certainly looks physically imposing, but it was the notion of casting someone who can actually act in an action hero role that was the counterintuitive concept that made both films Taken 2 is more a remake than a sequel so successful." Bernard Bessigleek of The Hollywood Reporter gave the film a positive review after its screening at Deauville, concluding, "There's a touch of vigilante advocacy in the movie that will displease some, with Liam Neeson as a more gentlemanly version of the Charles Bronson of the Death Wish series, but clearly there's still a market for such fantasies. Moviegoers who like Taken and want more of the same will get precisely that." John Anderson of The Wall Street Journal gave the film a negative review, writing that there is a blind adherence to formula evident in most of Taken 2. As they might say in the advertising department, it's an adrenaline-fueled thrill ride. But it could have been much more. Lisa Schwartzbaum of Entertainment Weekly gave the film a C grade, writing, "You know what happens in Taken 2, don't you? The same thing that happened 4 years ago in Taken, but different. And that Taken 2 is simultaneously silly, nasty, a lazy festival of stereotypes, and a cleverly made piece of merchandise that is, it's the devil we know." Neil Genslinger of the New York Times gave the film a negative review, writing that much of Taken 2 seems like a non-stop car and foot chase, with Albanian after Albanian falling victim to Brian's remarkable aim and hand-fighting skills. "Foreigners bad, Americans good," Box office busy. Keith Phipps of the AV Club gave the film a C grade, writing, "What begins as a family outing, with a hint of rekindled romance between the parents, devolves into kidnapping, torture, high-speed chases, and other misadventures probably not smiled upon by the Turkish Board of Tourism. None of it is particularly novel or exciting." Scott Bowles of USA Today gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, writing, "The first half of Taken 2 is a serviceable action flick, but the second half descends into cliches, and, times, Taken 2 even steps from the shadows of the original with some terrifying imagery and an improved relationship between father and daughter. Alas, the movie can't help but descend into a pat part 2, bereft of much suspense or tension." Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian gave the film 2 stars out of 5, concluding, "In the first movie, from the tail end of the Bush era, Liam was not shy about using Jack Bauerish torture techniques, wiring up evildoers to the mains and zapping them with righteous volts. None of that now." That was a 15. This is a 12A, a bit tamer, just as ridiculous, but the premise is looking pretty tired. Joe Newmayer of the Daily News also gave the film 2 stars out of 5, writing, "Taken 2 has a plot that could have been written by a GPS program, and contains all the technical charm that conjures up. Yet somehow, Liam Neeson growls through this just acceptable action sequel with his dignity intact, his wallet bigger and his movie family oblivious to all that occurred in 2009's Taken." Neil Smith of Total Film also gave the film 2 stars out of 5, concluding, "What are you going to do? Wails Maggie. What I do best. Growls Liam." Yet while it's fun to watch him take out the Euro trash, we've seen him do it better. Anne Hornaday of The Washington Post gave the film 1 stars out of 4, writing, "You can't blame Liam Neeson, or the Taken producers, for trying to catch lightning in a bottle again. What you can blame them for is Taken 2, a sequel every bit as clumsy, ham-handed, outlandish and laughable as the original was sleek, tough and efficient." Audiences polled by the market research firm CinemaScore gave the film a B+ grade on average. Sequel. The sequel to the film is in production in Los Angeles. See also, references. External links, official website, Taken 2 at the Internet Movie Database, Taken 2 at AllMovie, Taken 2 at Rotten Tomatoes, Taken 2 at Metacritic, Taken 2 at Box Office Mojo, Taken 2 at The Numbers, Taken 3 website.